Hello. Well, if you ever needed proof that the older generation is seen as irrelevant by the younger generations, then look no further than your favourite search engine. Welcome to Grey Matters. Hello there. Well, before we get into the meat of this edition, there's an opportunity for you to win a Grey Matters baseball cap at the end of this programme, and it won't cost you a penny. So we'll give you details of that very soon. Now then, regular viewers and subscribers to this channel know that at this point in each edition of Grey Matters, I tell you that the channel promotes the fact that the older generation still matters and has relevance. Now in this edition, that strapline has never been more important. Why? Well, I was searching for content online or inspiration for future content, and I was using phrases such as issues that matter to the older generation, why young people see the older generation as irrelevant, and what do younger generations misunderstand about senior citizens. Well, my reasoning was that until we know why the young seem to dismiss us, we can't really take steps to try and improve that generational divide. But I was actually shocked by the results that came back. Every result turned the question on its head. Why old people always complain about young people? Well, I guess we do, don't we really? But it goes on. What do older generations misunderstand about teenagers today? What can older generations learn from Gen Z? What problems are young people facing? Are younger generations truly weaker than older ones? And old people have always whinged about young adults. Here's the proof. Well, that's the BBC, of course. And as the foremost promoter of ageism, the British Biased Corporation certainly seems to be hell-bent on eradicating everyone over 50 from their staff establishment, especially if they're presenters. It's a blatant show of, and probably illegal show of ageism. But you see, every result that came back was about the younger generation and the problems they face with the older generation. Now, some of those results might be valid. I mean, we do moan about kids today, don't we? But I was trying to discover why they seem to dismiss us as a generation. And after multiple searches, only one result came back that might have addressed the issue. Why do younger people dislike older people? So I thought, great, maybe now we'll get some answers. It was an article from Psychology Today, and it was written by American psychologist Lawrence R. Samuel, himself a baby boomer, and he was asking the question because he sees, like us here at Grey Matters, that we're all increasingly becoming the target of ageism. Now, it looked promising, so I thought maybe we'll learn about this perceived generational divide and see if the generations really are at war with each other. And in that respect, do you remember Phil Cool, that comedian impressionist from some time ago? Take a look at this. I think he's hit the nail on the head in some ways. Take a look.
So it is my solemn duty to declare that the older generation and the younger generation are now at war. And we'll fight them in the Kentucky Fried Chicken houses. We'll fight them in Burger King and McDonald's, and we'll fight them in the cyber cafes and the amusement arcades, and in the darkest recesses of shopping malls where CCTV can't quite reach. And we will fight them on the slippery pavements outside Irish pubs. And we will never surrender to this happy-slapping, chlamydia-infested, pot-noodle-chomping bunch of button-pressing couch potato morons that calls itself youth. And we will secure victory. So all you litter-dropping hoodie scumbags, stick that in your spliff and smoke it.
Yes, haven't seen Phil Cool for a long time. Great little clip there. But back to this article from Psychology Today and Lawrence R. Samuel. Now, he says that older people are generally deemed to be weaker, less attractive versions of their younger selves. Well, I disagree with that. I expect you do too. But he does agree with us that older people are often viewed as little more than slow walking, slow talking, bad driving, hard of hearing nuisances. And I think we all know that we're portrayed as grumpy. So let's get to the meat of the article. Why do younger people dislike older people? He doesn't actually tell us. According to Mr. Samuel, the ageist society has deep roots going back decades, and it has produced the most youth-orientated culture in history. And that's got to be true, isn't it? But that's all he says. And we know he's right, because when this enormous database of knowledge called the internet can only produce potentially one relevant result, and even that one fails to deliver on the promise of its headline, we're kind of back to square one, aren't we? Now, as it happens, I have no doubt that we stereotype today's youngsters as much as they stereotype us. Many older people see them as fragile, self-obsessed, self-absorbed and entitled, whose only interests orbit around posting pouting selfies and gaining followers on TikTok or X or whatever it's called now, and Instagram, and crying that they have mental health issues when they're feeling a little down in the dumps. However, our generation's perception of young people isn't helped when top linguists warn that a full stop can annoy Gen Z. You know, I know, no, it's true. A full stop can annoy Gen Z. Apparently, using full stops in texts and messages can upset or offend young people, those in their teens and early 20s. Gen Z apparently has grown up using short messages to communicate and can see the full stop as passive aggression. Oh yeah, give me strength. But okay, these stereotypes about young people though are just as unfair as those around our generation. I mean, there is an argument that stereotypes exist for a reason, and it's because that's how the subjects of the stereotyping behave. But that's how they became stereotypes. But the problem is, those sorts of labels don't apply to everyone. Now, one of my grandsons, just turned 16, wants to become a doctor. He's just trying to figure out in which field, but he's working hard at trying to realise this ambition, as are his friends with their choices. My eldest grandson spent his early teen years gardening for people and doing heavy groundworks to raise money for the things he wanted. Not every young person is prancing around on TikTok crying out for look at me, attention. Every generation has its problems. Well, ours, for example, we were fairly lucky. We just missed the war years. Jobs were generally plentiful. We had the boom years that saw the unions brought into line and increased prosperity for most people. But we've also faced years of pretty poor education with huge classroom sizes, tiny opportunities for grammar school educations and universities. I mean, they were just for the elite. And we had years of mass unemployment, humongous interest rates, and of course, we've all recently suffered austerity. But what we didn't have was the constant scrutiny of our lives by social media. Young people know no better. They haven't known a time without the internet, without Facebook or whatever their current favourite platform is. We've never had bullying at school follow us home and into our bedrooms and other supposedly safe places, which it does constantly now. You can't get away from it. And every time something goes wrong for young people, it tends to be filmed by others and put up for everyone else to see and potentially laugh at. Now, look back to our formative years. Teenage suicides were pretty much unheard of. Yet between 2019 and 2021, 38 children aged between 10 and 14 killed themselves. 38 aged between 10 and 14 years old. Just let that sink in for a moment. And when you look at the 15 to 19-year-old age group, the figures are even worse, with 521 suicides. Now, we also didn't have young people's problems of having to fight for employment with so much competition for so few jobs. Everyone is going out and getting university degrees. And they certainly seem to overuse the term mental health. But is that because we were made of sterner stuff, or do they really have more complex issues to handle than we did? To be honest, after all that digging around on the internet, I'm none the wiser. But I still have to come back to the reason for this channel's existence, and that was Brexit and the criticism thrown at us, and which is still being thrown at us now, that we didn't understand the implications, that we were lied to and were too old and stupid to realise it. But that criticism presupposes that all us older people voted for Brexit, and that's not true. I know lots of my generation who voted to remain. We'll carry on about that in just a moment after this quick break. See you in a second. Hello, welcome back. Yes, Brexit. Well, we did understand the implications, thank you very much. We'd lived through a time when we weren't shackled to the EU, when the common market was born, and even those of us who opposed it had to agree that it helped trade a little. But when it morphed into the EEC, the European Economic Community, and we were forced to adopt rules that hampered our trade and growth, it started to become somewhat of a shadow hanging over our country. And the final move to removing sovereignty was the manifestation of the unelected and undemocratic EU that threw away the rule book and wrote another with thousands more rules that stifled the member states and diluted their sovereignty over their own people. The thing is that youngsters know no better. They blame us for ruining their lives and ruining the future by coming out of the European Union. They've not experienced life without the totalitarian control of the EU. They're clinging to it like a child clings to its mother when it takes its first tentative steps. They need to let go and embrace the freedom that walking and running unaided will give them. They need to accept that we did know exactly what we were doing. The only reason it's failing is because successive Prime Ministers since Brexit, with perhaps the exception of Boris, have all been Remainers who really didn't want to deliver on the referendum. So, whilst I still refute the criticisms launched at us, and whilst I'll probably continue to shake my head in despair when I see some of the younger generation's antics on social media, personally I will try to be a bit more tolerant, to accept that they have their own generational problems and just hope they have the courtesy to return the favour. However, judging by some of the vitriol spouted by younger people in the comments section of our channel, particularly in regards to the winter fuel payments, I'm not that confident. But I'd like to know what you think. Are the generations at war, or is it just a little bit of intolerance with each other, as it has been in fact for generations? And do you get flack from your children and grandchildren for your opinions? Maybe you're not considered woke enough to be taken seriously. And what can the older and younger generations learn from each other? I mean, despite what the internet suggests, it's not all about the younger generations. As our channel strapline says, we old and still matter. We still have relevance. And from my personal perspective, I've packed so much into my life, like many of my contemporaries. As a generation, we have so much experience, knowledge, and dare I say wisdom to share. And I just hope they realise it before it's too late and they bundle us off to the care homes. Well, before we go, there's a couple of baseball caps, Grey Matters baseball caps that we're giving away, and it's dead easy. All you have to do is pop the words baseball caps in a comment under the video, in the video, on the video, I don't know, wherever you want to put it. Just comment baseball caps. Then on the 30th of November we'll do a random draw, and whoever names we pull out will win one of the baseball caps. I'm afraid we have to restrict it to viewers and subscribers in the UK, but we're hoping that the baseball caps will be available in an online store very soon. But it's your chance to get your hands on one sooner than that. Okay, as always, do share your opinions with us. We do try to read everyone, and your opinions are very important to us. Thank you for your likes, shares and for subscribing. And until the next time on Grey Matters, assuming of course they've not yet bundled me off to the care home, thanks for joining us, thanks for watching, and it's bye for now.